Hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points, news without the noise. Our effort to redefine primetime news, focus on the stories that matter. Our top talking point, the Comptroller and Auditor General report on the alleged Delhi liquor scam suggests a major revenue loss. Has it put the Aam Aadmi Party on the back foot? The former Delhi Chief Minister Atishi is among my newsmakers tonight. But our top story. For the last couple of years, the alleged Delhi liquor policy scam has reverberated across the national capital and has had huge political implications. Many believe that it was one of the major reasons why Arvind Kejriwal's Aam Aadmi Party lost after a decade in power in the national capital. Well, today the Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta of the BJP tabled the CAG report on that excise policy. The report did highlight glaring lapses in policy making and estimated the revenue losses suffered by the government over more than 2,000 crores. Here are some of the big talking points. The total revenue loss is pegged at 2,002 crore rupees. The report says manufacturers were given wholesale licenses which ended up benefiting a select few. The wholesaler margin increased from 5% to 12%. There was no effective financial screening of the bidders, and this increased the possibility of proxy ownership. And the policy led to the formation of liquor cartels and monopolies. Expert panel's recommendations were ignored, and changes in policy were made by a group of ministers. And the major decisions were taken without cabinet approval or consultation with the LG. All of this, of course, has put the Aam Aadmi Party government that was in power in Delhi between 2014 and 24 on the back foot. But the Aam Aadmi Party insists that actually the CAG report is making a distinction between the old policy and the new one, and says the old policy, which was implemented before they came to power, was actually making the revenue losses. Take a look at our top story.
The Delhi liquor gate policy war reignites. The CAG report on the contentious liquor policy was tabled in the Assembly on Tuesday by the newly minted BJP government.
लेखा परीक्षा प्रतिवेदन वर्ष 2024 का प्रतिवेदन संख्या नंबर 1 की प्रतियां सदन पटल पर प्रस्तुत करती हूं.
India Today accessed exclusive details of the CAG report, which shows alleged loopholes in the Kejriwal-era excise policy. The CAG report pegged the loss due to the liquor policy at over 2,000 crore rupees. As per the report, the control of licenses was held by only few members, and the excise policy risked monopoly and creation of cartels. The report says policy decisions were taken without the competent authorities' nod, and permissions were not obtained for any license exemptions. The new policy not only violated norms by granting licenses to private entities, but also removed the role of Delhi government corporations. The CAG report also explains how the massive losses were incurred. The total loss to Exchequer from the implementation of excise policy was over 2,000 crore rupees. Of this, a loss of 941 crore rupees was due to zonal license exemptions, and another 890 crore rupees loss due to non-tendering of retail licenses.
शराब की दलाली करने की इतनी ज्यादा इच्छा शक्ति थी उनकी कि उसके लिए उन्होंने न जाने कितने नियमों को ताक पे रख दिया. मैं पढ़ रहा था कि रीटेंडर ना होने से लगभग 890 करोड़ का नुकसान हो गया.
The Aam Aadmi Party claims no proof yet has been found to back the claims.
किसने ये 2000 करोड़ का सरकारी खजाना बढ़ने से रोका? इस सीएजी रिपोर्ट के आधार पर उस पर इन्वेस्टिगेशन होना जरूरी है। तो आज हमारी ये मांग है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी के एलजी साहब, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सीबीआई और भारतीय जनता पार्टी की इन्फोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट पे इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो।
A total of 14 CAG reports are expected to be tabled this session, including one of the Chief Minister's official residence of Six Flags staff, or Sheesh Mahal as BJP calls it, which was renovated during Arvind Kejriwal's rule. The political storm is only intensifying in the capital. Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me now is the leader of the opposition in the Delhi Assembly and the former Chief Minister of the Aam Aadmi Party, Atishi, joins me on that big CAG story. Appreciate you joining us, Atishi. Would you concede that the manner in which the report of the CAG has been tabled in the Delhi Assembly, suggesting a 2002 crore revenue loss because of the Aam Aadmi Party government's liquor policy, is a huge embarrassment, especially on the back of the poll defeat?
Rajdeep, anyone who says that there is a 2002 crore rupee loss to the exchequer clearly hasn't read the CAG report and has only read the pointers that have come from either the BJP headquarters or the Prime Minister's office. The 8 chapters of the CAG report, 7 chapters are on the old excise policy that the Aam Aadmi Party government repeatedly said needs to be put out, needs to be changed. The CAG report repeatedly says that the old excise policy was causing loss to the exchequer. The old excise policy, the pricing was being manipulated. There was a lot of black sale of liquor happening. There was a lot of smuggling happening of liquor from Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. And that policy needed to go. Number one. Number two, the CAG report clearly says that the new policy brought in by the Aam Aadmi Party government was more transparent, was going to put an end to the sale of liquor in black and would have increased government revenues. 3, they clearly say that the new policy was not implemented properly. And that is why the target, the revenue target, the high revenue target set by the new excise policy wasn't achieved. Why was this policy not implemented?
Atishi, are you,
players.
you know,
Number one,
Atishi, just a minute.
Lieutenant Governor who disrupted the policy again and again. Number two, the CBI who filed an FIR right in the middle of the policy implementation, and number 3, the ED. So let us be very clear. If the CAG report indicts anyone, it is the BJP's, the central government's nominee, the Lieutenant Governor, the central government's agency, the CBI, and the central government's agency, the Enforcement Directorate, because
Atishi,
they are the ones responsible.
Let me get in a word in here. The CAG findings.
CAG calls.
No, Atishi, 1 minute. You know, you're saying 8 chapters. The findings that I've read the report. Policy risks creating cartels, license control in a few hands, norms violated to give contracts. Now, this is also part of the new policy. You're making it old liquor policy versus new. The CAG report, when referring to the new policy, clearly suggests that there were anomalies which you cannot escape. It was your government.
If you read the 200, if you read the 208 pages of the report, 80% of the report is about the problems with the old liquor policy. How there was a lot of sale of liquor in black, how there was smuggling of liquor inside Delhi from Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, how the cost of the liquor, there was no checks and balances, and therefore the base cost of the liquor upon which the profit was being calculated was many, many times higher than what was being sold in other parts of the country. So,
but you brought in a new liquor policy. Why make it about old versus new? But Atishi, you brought in a new liquor policy, and there were anomalies, irregularities in that policy, which are also the subject of a CBI inquiry. So you're making it about old versus new. You will have to justify the implementation of a new liquor policy and why that liquor policy failed.
Absolutely, and that is exactly what I'm talking about. Why was the new liquor policy? The excise revenue in 2020-21 was 4,100 crores with the old liquor policy. With the new liquor policy, the projected revenue was more than 2 times. It was 9,000 crores. Why? Because it was a better policy. It was preventing smuggling of liquor into Delhi. It was preventing the under-the-table sale of liquor that prevented revenue from coming in. Now, why was this liquor policy, which has led to thousands of crores of increase in revenue in Punjab, the same liquor policy, why did it not lead to the same revenue increase in Delhi? Why was the projected revenue not increased? Because during the implementation of the policy, the LG repeatedly threw spanners in the works and did not let adequate number of liquor stores be opened, number one. Number two, in between the implementation of the liquor policy, the CBI FIR was filed. In another month, the ED FIR was filed. Obviously, the liquor policy could not be implemented after an ED and CBI FIR has been filed. Which officer
because those ED and CBI FIR suggest there were irregularities. No one. I don't think it's a question of the new excise policy. The new excise policy had its merits. The question is in the way it was implemented, and that's where the corruption allegedly took place.
The new excise policy had not even been implemented for 7 months. By the time the CBI FIR happened, it had not even been implemented for 8 months when the ED ECIR happened. Any new policy has its implementation hiccups, more so in Delhi where the Lieutenant Governor was repeatedly throwing spanners in the works. I can do a proper audit of GST. The number of times GST implementation had to be changed. Every GST council meeting, you have new taxes imposed, you have new taxes revoked, sometimes 18%, sometimes 12%, sometimes 28%. No, you have to file GST in an aggregate manner. No, you have to file GST in a segregated manner. There have been at least 2,000 GST notifications to improve the implementation of the GST from the first day when it was launched. More than 2,000 notifications, right? Will you say that it was badly implemented? No, it takes time for any new law to be implemented. It takes time for any new policy to be implemented. The new liquor policy was in the process of implementation. 7 months into a new policy, the Central Bureau of Investigation files an FIR. 9 months into the new liquor policy, the ED files an ECIR. Obviously. So no officer is going to sign a file after that. Once an FIR has been filed by the CBI, once an ECIR has been filed by the Enforcement Directorate, will any bureaucrat in this country sign a file of that policy? Of course they would not.
So
they were worried that many of their batchmates had been FIRs filed against them. So I stand by the fact that the new liquor policy was a transparent, revenue increasing policy, has done so in Punjab. I would be happy to share the figures with you.
Look, Atishi,
the liquor policy
most neutral observers will say yes, the new excise policy could have generated more revenues. You've given the example of Punjab. There are others who will give the example of Haryana. The question is not new versus old. The question also is, and this is the point that the BJP is making, that as a result of this new policy, there was cartelization. There were benefits given to the so-called South cartel, according to the ED CBI inquiries that eventually led to the jailing of your leaders, inclunging your leader Arvind Kejriwal. So their claim is that money was then used for elections in Goa and in Punjab.
Let's be very clear, Rajdeep. Nothing like this is in the CAG report, which is why I also doubt the fact
that the CAG report. I said CBI and ED. I said CBI and ED FIRs.
Nothing like this. Nothing like this is in the CAG report. Whatever you are talking about, none of this is in the CAG report. And as far as the ED and CBI are concerned, I think we only need to look at Arvind Kejriwal's bail judgment, where the Supreme Court says that these central agencies are acting like caged parrots and not acting independently. So I think We don't really need to talk about the CBI and ED. Enough has been said about that. Enough has been said by the Supreme Court about that. Let that case go to trial. But as far as the CAG is concerned, CAG report says nothing about cartelization. CAG report says nothing of the sort that you have been talking about. CAG report spends 80% of its pages talking about how the old policy was leading to bootlegging of liquor, how the old policy was leading to the selling of liquor in black, of smuggling of liquor in from Haryana and Uttar Pradesh needed to be changed, about how the new policy was a transparent one, and how it would have prevented sale of liquor in black. And number 3, that there were problems in implementation which led to the liquor policy, new liquor policy, not reaching its own projected targets. Rajdeep, it still generated more revenue than the old liquor policy. This is the most interesting thing. In 2020-21, 4,100 crores was the revenue generated by the old liquor policy. In 21-22, the new liquor policy, no Rajdeep, you have to hear this, more than 5,000 crores was generated as excise revenue. That means with the new liquor policy, the revenue of the Delhi government actually increased. It did not reach the targets that the policy per se had planned. It did not reach the targets that we ourselves had hoped it would. It did not reach the targets as we have reached in Punjab. But it still increased the revenues of the Delhi government. This is exactly what the CAG report says. So I would request you and your viewers not just to read the pointers that are coming out of the Prime Minister's office or the BJP.
I'm not reading. No, Atishi, this is the second time you mentioned that. I'm reading out specific pages. Look, we can all look at particular aspects of the report. One of the more controversial findings, 144 crore waiver granted to licensees for the period between December 28, 2021, January 27, 2022, citing COVID-19 restrictions. The CAG noted that this waiver went against the excise department's own stance, leading to further revenue loss.
And this, Rajdeep, was based on multiple orders of the High Court that had asked for deposits to be returned, not just in Delhi, but in Tamil Nadu, but in Uttar Pradesh, but also in Maharashtra, in COVID times. There were multiple orders of multiple High Courts that said that when deposits were made during COVID times, but shops could not be opened, deposits had to be returned. This was not just an order of one High Court. Similar orders came out of Delhi High Court, Bombay High Court, Madras High Court. Repeatedly, High Courts gave those orders for COVID times. So therefore, my suggestion is, as I said, read the whole report in totality. Report very clearly says old policy needed to go, new policy needed to be brought in, new policy was good, implementation did not happen properly. And since implementation did not happen properly, the 3 agencies and the 3 institutions that need to be investigated are the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, the Central Bureau of Investigation, and the Enforcement Directorate. Because they are the ones
this last part is not in the report. This is
Otherwise, how?
This is your imputation. My limited point, and I want to end on this. I want to end on this, which is the politics. The fact is that the CAG reports have been presented since 2017-18, many of them in the last 4 years. But when you were in power, you chose not to table them in the assembly. If, as you're saying, you had nothing to hide, why not table it? You see the optics, as we saw even with the UPA government, when it came to the 2G CAG report, the optics turned against them. Now we've got a government which says they're going to table them one by one. The next one likely to be on the alleged mismanagement of the public transport, the free bus rides, and the imputation that also led to revenue losses. I just want to understand, if you are so confident that you have nothing to hide, why not just table that CAG report when you were in power? That could have been doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani moment.
No, but we did. We tabled multiple CAG reports. CAG reports were tabled in 2021, 2022, 2023.
Not on the liquor scam.
So CAG reports have been tabled.
Alleged liquor scam.
No, but this report just came a few months ago. This report just came a few months ago. So these reports get tabled as a routine matter. Rajdeep, let us not get led astray by the propaganda of the Bharatiya Janata Party. This liquor policy is the one, and I would like to share this data with you. In Punjab, the revenue in the financial year 2021-22, you had a 6,100 crore rupee excise revenue, which in the current financial year with the new liquor policy has surpassed 10,000 crores. Right? Why? Because you have a transparent excise policy based on auctions, based on a system whereby no selling of liquor in black can happen because upfront payments are made by license holders.
The CBI ED claims
Number two,
those auctions
if
were
there is a
rigged
problem with the policy,
in Delhi.
Rajdeep, let's be very clear. The CBI and ED are running as, what do you call it, frontal organizations of the Bharatiya Janata Party. You know that, I know that. Let's not pretend it is otherwise. So, the case has not even after all these years gone to trial. Can we even begin to talk about what doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani is? I think the CBI report is an excellent document. I think everyone should actually read this document.
The CAG report.
This document actually underscores what the Aam Aadmi Party government was saying, that there was fundamental problems with the old excise policy, that the old excise policy was leading to a lot of bleeding of revenue from the Delhi government. A new policy was brought in that was more transparent, a new policy that was brought in that was based on auctions and greater higher revenues from the government. But this policy could not be implemented properly. This is the story of the new excise policy that could not be implemented. And yes, I am saying that the three institutions behind that, the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, the CBI and the ED, they are the ones who actually caused the loss to the exchequer, and they must be investigated.
Let me leave it there, Atishi. I can see that your voice is hoarse from all the shouting that was taking place today in the Delhi Assembly. Clearly the battle lines are drawn. You've given us your perspective, and I appreciate you joining us and telling us where you and your party stand on the CAG report. Just to end by asking you, presumably therefore, neither you nor your leaders are afraid that all of this could lead to another round of inquiries and potentially the government of the day putting some of your leaders once again under prosecution. No such worries, is it?
Rajdeep, they are quite capable of doing that anyway. There was no evidence. There was not recovery of a single rupee. There were no proceeds of crime. Not one single rupee from anyone's locker, home, office, village, anything was recovered. So this entire case regarding the excise policy was one of the biggest witch hunts this country has seen. But Bharatiya Janata Party is a party that is likely to go ahead with these kind of witch hunts. It's a party that is likely to go ahead trying to suppress the opposition. It is a party that is likely to persecute the opposition, not just Aam Aadmi Party, but any opposition parties whom they see as a threat. So therefore, such witch hunts may entirely continue. Such vendettas may entirely continue. That has nothing to do with these CAG reports whatsoever. In fact, as I said, this CAG report underscores what the Aam Aadmi Party has been saying for years.
Okay. Atishi, for joining me on the show tonight, appreciate your joining me. Atishi, the former Delhi Chief Minister, on where the Aam Aadmi Party stands after that CAG report has been put before the Delhi Assembly. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you.
The question now, of course, is what happens next? Because this is not just one CAG report. There are as many as 14 CAG reports that we are told are likely to be tabled over the next few weeks and months. I want to come to our correspondent, Shreya Chatterjee. She covers the Aam Aadmi Party. Shreya, just to understand from you, what next? There are reports allegedly into the reconstruction of Arvind Kejriwal's house, the Chief Minister's house, on the Transport Department, on Mohalla clinics. Is the BJP government planning to bring them out one by one so that you keep the pot boiling and build this narrative that the Aam Aadmi Party government has much to answer for, or the previous Aam Aadmi government has much to answer for.
Well,
is that the strategy?
Yes. Well, yes, that's exactly the strategy on the part of the BJP, because what we're given to understand that initially the messaging was that 2 or 3 reports will be tabled together. Then they suggested that only 1 report will be tabled. That's what has been tabled today. The session has already been extended for 2 more days, so we will likely be seeing at least 1 more report be tabled, if not 2. The sense on the ground is at least the report on the Mohalla clinics that might be coming in. Also, there is a report on the vehicular emission. There was the mitigation report that could also be coming in as well. The Sheesh Mahal one is something which they might just keep waiting because they do not want to miss out on the strategy to keep the entire thing boiling for a long time. But there are 14 total reports, 5 from 2022, 5 from 2024, and 4 from 2023.
Because the big one that people are looking at very carefully is the Arvind Kejriwal report on construction of his chief minister's bungalow. That became a huge issue during the elections. Is the sense that you have that the BJP wants to actually now go ahead and prosecute Aam Aadmi Party leaders in other cases as well? So far it was the Delhi liquor scam that was the focus. In the weeks and months ahead, many more Aam Aadmi Party leaders could find themselves on the back foot.
Absolutely, because the moment the BJP came to power, what the Prime Minister essentially said is that the way the Aam Aadmi Party looted the government, people of Delhi, they will be avenged. That's what exactly everyone in the BJP is replicating right now.
That's the narrative.
That's the narrative. So one by one, they will definitely be going after the Aam Aadmi Party. In the Sheesh Mahal case, it's not just the CAG report. We're also seeing there are cases, there are preliminary inquiry by the CBI. So we will be seeing simultaneous inquiries that will be going on against the Aam Aadmi Party.
Just one final point. Atishi, in that interview, kept saying the CAG report also looks at the old liquor policies and the failures of the old liquor policy, which was before the Aam Aadmi Party came to power, and then compares it to the new. While there are serious questions over irregularities in the new policy, the old policy also has much to answer for. Am I right?
It does, it does. It's an overall 5 years analysis of the old liquor policies implemented and for the tenure of 7 months that the fresh one was implemented. And it talks about the anomalies in both of them. It's not just about the 2021 to the 2022 one.
But clearly covering the Delhi Assembly is exciting at this moment because you've got the BJP going on the offensive, and you've got the Aam Aadmi Party now with its own shouting brigade. So interesting times.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we're looking at. But it's a nice thing also to see that, I mean, there's something or a dialogue at least being exchanged by both the parties, and at least the Aam Aadmi Party also trying to be a constructive opposition despite facing such a heavy loss in the national capital.
Are they a constructive opposition or now a shouting brigade? We'll wait and see how that plays out. But Shreya Chatterjee, who tracks the Aam Aadmi Party and the Delhi Assembly, thanks very much for joining me on the show today. Okay, time to swing back to the next story because I want to stay with the national capital. It's a story which over the years I have tracked. Way back in 1984, remember, it was in Delhi that the tragic anti-Sikh riots took place. Many would call it a pogrom. In fact, that's the way I see what happened in Delhi in 1984. More than 2,000 Sikhs, some say more than 3,000 died in those anti-Sikh riots. Finally, slowly, the wheels of justice are moving, way too slow. 41 years later, the law has finally caught up with an ex-Congress MP, Sajjan Kumar. He's been sentenced a life term for killing 2 people, but the 1984 riot survivors are still angry. They wanted the death sentence for the former Congress MP. Take a look.
Justice after 41 years for 1984 anti-Sikh riot victims. Former Congress MP Sajjan Kumar has got life in jail for leading a mob that set ablaze a father-son duo in Delhi's Saraswati Vihar during the worst genocide that Delhi has seen.
ਅੱਜ ਸੱਜਣ ਕੁਮਾਰ ਨੂੰ 2 ਉਮਰ ਕੈਦ ਦੀ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਜੱਜ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਆਪਣੀ ਜੱਜਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੈ कि जो पीड़ित मांग कर रहे सी कि फांसी की सज़ा सुनाई जाए तो सरकार ने भी मांग की है कि फांसी सज़ा सुनाई जाए भाई वो कानून के मुताबिक इन्हू नहीं दी जा सकती।
नहीं बिल्कुल संतुष्ट नहीं है कि हजारों लोगों की हत्या हो गई हो, सड़क के ऊपर जिंदा जला दिया गया हो और इतने सालों के बाद इंसाफ मिले और वो भी उम्र कैद का, तो ये कोई मायने नहीं रखता है।
The mob had killed the victims, Jaswant Singh and son Tarundeep Singh, on November 1st, 1984. The victim's family and prosecution had sought death penalty.
हम खुश नहीं हैं। 40 साल इंतजार करते हो गया, 40 साल में हमें ये इनाम दिया कि उसको फिर जिंदा रखा। मेरे पापा को मेरे आंखों सामने जलाया गया था, जिंदे को 7 मेंबर गए थे हमारे, उसने जिंदे को सड़ाया गया, जलाया गया। हमें आज तक इंसाफ नहीं मिले। हम यही तो चाहते हैं कि हमें इंसाफ मिले।
The survivors of the anti-Sikh riots held protests outside Delhi's Rouse Avenue court seeking death penalty.
फांसी देनी चाहिए थी सरकार को, इस फैसले से हम संतुष्ट नहीं है। सज्जन कुमार को फांसी आनी चाहिए थी। हमारे घर घर से तबाह कर दिए, किसी के 11, किसी के 6, किसी के 15 लोगों को जिंदा जलाया।
नहीं, हमारे लिए तो अभी ये न्याय सही नहीं हुआ। हम तो कहते हैं एक सज्जन कुमार को फांसी मिलनी ही चाहिए बस।
जब तक हमारे आत्मा को तसल्ली होएगी, इसको फांसी होए।
The ruling BJP claimed that earlier Congress governments had shielded the rioters. It thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for setting up a SIT and ensuring justice.
हमेशा प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने कहा है कि ना किसी को बख्शा जाएगा, ना किसी को छोड़ा जाएगा। अगर किसी व्यक्ति ने कोई जो है भ्रष्टाचार किया है उसको भी सजा मिलेगी, अगर उसने कोई घोर अपराध किया है उसको भी सजा मिलेगी।
आज दूसरे केस में उनको उम्र कैद हुई है। मैं कोर्ट का भी धन्यवाद करता हूं और ये हमारे लिए जो लंबी हमने लड़ाई लड़ी थी, बड़ी पीड़ा थी हमें, बड़ा दर्द था हमें कि हम चाहकर भी इंसाफ नहीं पा रहे। मैं मानता हूं कि आंशिक तौर पर हमारे लिए जरूर एक हमें संतुष्टि देने वाली खबर है।
The riots and killing of innocent Sikhs were triggered after then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was shot dead by her Sikh bodyguards. But it took 41 years to punish one of the biggest perpetrators. With Shrishti Ojha in New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
41 years. Think about it. Should it take that long to prosecute and eventually sentence a former MP? It says much about just how the wheels of justice sometimes in this country move too slowly, way too slowly in such cases. No one will forget the horrors of 1984. Let me turn from 1984 to what's happened in Tamil Nadu today, where Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin is upping the ante against the centre. He's now called for an all-party meeting in his state to discuss the contentious issue of delimitation, warning that this could lead to a dilution in the rights of Tamil Nadu's political representation. This comes on the back of the Tamil Nadu government confronting the centre over the new education policy and the 3-language formula. Are we seeing a build-up ahead of next year's Tamil Nadu elections between Chennai and New Delhi? Take a look.
M.K. Stalin reignites the North-South debate. Stalin has called a meeting of the 40 Tamil Nadu parties registered with the Election Commission next month to discuss the delimitation of Lok Sabha constituencies based on this year's census.
நாடு முழுக்க இருக்கக்கூடிய மக்களவை அடிப்படையில் தொகுதிகளை பிரிச்சா தமிழ்நாட்டில் இருக்கக்கூடிய தொகுதிகளில் 8 தொகுதிகளை இழக்க வேண்டிய ஒரு சூழ்நிலை ஏற்பட்டிருக்கு. அதாவது இனி தமிழ்நாட்டுக்கு 39 எம்பிகள் இருக்க மாட்டாங்க, 31 எம்பிகள் தான் இருப்பாங்க. அதிக மக்கள் தொகை கொண்ட மாநிலங்களுக்கு அதிக பிரதிநிதித்துவம் கிடைக்கும். இதனால் தமிழ்நாட்டுடைய குரல் நசுக்கப்படுது.
Stalin's call for meet on delimitation comes just days after his face-off with the Narendra Modi government over the national education policy. The DMK is opposing implementation of the NEP, which makes 3-language policy mandatory, claiming it is imposition of Hindi. The face-off escalated after Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan made it clear that funds under the Samagra Shiksha scheme will not be disbursed till the Tamil Nadu government implements the NEP.
What is wrong if a student in Tamil Nadu will learn multilingual, will come to the multilingual aspect in his study? It can be Tamil, it can be English, it can be other Indian language. There is no imposition of any Hindi or any language on them. Some friends in Tamil Nadu are doing politics, but certainly Government of India is committed to implement NEP, and there are certain conditions with NEP.
இந்த திட்டத்துல
கையெழுத்து போட்டாதான் 2000 கோடி ரூபாய் கிடைக்கும். 10,000 கோடி ரூபாய் பணம் கிடைக்கும்னு சொன்னாலும் நாங்கள் கையெழுத்து போட மாட்டோம். இன்னைக்கு நாங்கள் கையெழுத்து போட்டா என்ன ஆகும்? 2000 ஆண்டுக்கு பின்னோக்கி நம்ம தமிழ் சமுதாயம் போயிடும். அந்த பாவத்தை இந்த முத்துவேல் கருணாநிதி ஸ்டாலின் ஒருபோதும் செய்ய மாட்டான்.
The BJP is accusing the DMK of playing politics, first on NEP and now on delimitation.
Political parties are unnecessary making controversy. I don't think people of Tamil Nadu are accepting the DMK or any other political party viewpoint. It's just a matter of time before even the DMK would be forced to accept it, because the people's reaction says all.
Meanwhile, DMK workers have been running campaigns this week, defacing Hindi signboards at government establishments.
Chief Minister Stalin has called for an all-party meeting on March 5 to discuss how indeed, if the delimitation exercise is implemented, it could reduce Tamil Nadu's representation in the Lok Sabha. It's 39 seats at the moment, and if indeed this is implemented, it could bring down Tamil Nadu's representation to 31 seats, says Stalin.
Pundits feel Stalin may be preparing the ground for the crucial polls by invoking Tamil Nadu pride. With Anaga Keshav, Bureau Report, India Today.
And we'll have a full debate on that on our roundtable this week on Friday night. We'll be looking at that South versus or Tamil Nadu versus Centre debate. Let's turn from there to the big international story. February 24th, 2025 marks the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The United Nations voted on a draft resolution moved by Ukraine that called for a de-escalation and early cessation of hostilities and a peaceful resolution. But in a stark departure from their earlier stance, the United States, with the new President Donald Trump, voted against the resolution, effectively aligning with Russia for the first time since the war started. When it came to the vote, Ukraine's version passed by 93 votes to 18. The US voted against it alongside Russia. 65 countries, including India and China, abstained. The stark differences in US and Europe's approach to the Russia-Ukraine war were also on full display when French President Emmanuel Macron fact-checked Donald Trump in real time during their joint media briefing at the White House. As the US president was answering a question about Europe's funding to Ukraine, Macron grabbed Trump's arm to interrupt him and issued a fact check. Just take a look at what happened in that meeting first between Macron and Trump.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear. We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan, because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day, in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day, and Russia would have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President,
but they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But you know, that's only fair.
Mr. President,
I just want to tell you a little story. So we were at the Eiffel Tower having dinner with your wonderful wife and with my wonderful wife, and we came out and he started speaking the French deal. And we didn't have an interpreter, and he was going on and on and on, and I was just nodding, yes, yes, yes. And he really sold me on, because I got back the next day and I read the papers. I said, that's not what we said. He's a smart customer, I will tell you that. Sure.
Has America effectively abandoned Ukraine, and some would say Europe itself and NATO? Joining me now is Yevgenia Kravchuk. She's member of parliament in Ukraine. Joining me also from Washington is Edward Luce, the U.S. national editor for the Financial Times. Appreciate both of you joining us. Yevgenia, to you first. Is Ukraine feeling a sense of abandonment? United States effectively voting against a resolution that Ukraine moved, calling for de-escalation of the conflict?
Well, we feel that we get a lot of news across the Atlantic every day. But honestly, tonight, I spent another night under the Russian drones attack, and it was after the American resolution was passed in the Security Council. Did it help? No. So basically, these resolutions do not really work, but at least when we pass these resolutions, the aggression has to be named.
But do you feel abandoned? Do you feel, let me be direct, do you feel under Trump that Donald Trump is moving closer and closer towards a Russian position and abandoning Ukraine, yes or no?
I feel that Ukraine, as it was 3 years ago, should rely on its own strengths, but also on some help from the partners.
Do you feel abandoned?
I will not answer that question.
Okay. Edward Luce, you can answer that. Do you feel that Europe, that the position of the United States increasingly under Donald Trump is a marked departure from Joe Biden, rather than align itself to European interests or Ukrainian interests? President Trump is looking to strike a deal with Russia.
Yes, and he's already begun negotiations with Russia, to which Ukraine is not invited, nor is Europe. So, as the saying goes, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I feel, therefore, because I'm able to, as an independent journalist, sort of state this clearly and be undiplomatic. This is a hinge moment. The world, has changed. The American president is now very much aligning with the predator here, Russia, and is himself in his own hemisphere, in the Western Hemisphere, increasingly acting like a predator. So this is a profound shock, not just to Ukraine, for which it's most consequential, but also for America's traditional European allies, who have had a very rude wake-up call.
And why? Well, let's be clear. What is it that President Trump is hoping to achieve by aligning in this manner, or trying to strike a deal with Russia at this moment? What is the end game? An end to the war, or with creating spheres of influence in different parts of the world? What is really, according to the end game here?
So, I mean, there are people around Trump who say, look, we've got to pivot to Asia. We have to prioritize the China competition. I'm not sure that fully explains Trump's actions. He's always had deep affinity for Putin, and a lot of contempt for international rules and multilateral institutions, of which, of course, the European Union and NATO are two of the most important. And so I think there's more to Trump's actions than simply spheres of interest. The deal that he has proposed to Zelensky, Ukraine's president, that America take $500 billion of Ukrainian resources, of its revenues from oil and gas and critical minerals and port fees. This is a sum of money that's more than triple the amount that America gave to Ukraine. It didn't at the time under Biden loan that to Ukraine. It gave it. Trump's now retrospectively saying, no, these were loans, and he's tripled their size. That is not the act of a friend. This is the act of a predator. And so, I mean, I think Ukraine sort of understands very well what's happened, but it cannot complain too loudly. It's in a very desperate situation.
Yevgenia, I know you don't want to comment on whether you feel abandoned, but are you hopeful that the war could end as a result? There are those who are saying that the war could end sooner rather than later, given the fact that President Trump seems determined to strike some kind of a deal with the Russians? Or will Ukraine continue to fight on?
I will answer your question. We're not children to be abandoned. We are a grown-up, a 40 million nation in the center of European continent. And so the 3 days to conquer Kiev is now 3 years. And actually, Putin is not fighting on his own. He has to drag the North Korean soldiers to Kursk region. he has to borrow shaheds from Iran. But actually, what lies ahead is the biggest discussion that we're having right now is the security guarantees. And by the way, the security guarantees are also connected to this deal that a colleague, independent journalist, I used to be a journalist, I could speak more freely at that time, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, President Zelensky had not agreed to any of the agreements that are not partnership. And actually, that's why these discussions are ongoing. But at the end of the day, I see there is a progress. And even yesterday, or was the day before yesterday, but President Trump wrote in his True Social account saying that something about economic partnership and not 500 billions, but like dozens of billions. So we're getting there. And I believe President Zelensky to be a good negotiator as well.
Final word from you, Ed Luce. Are we seeing the end game of the war itself? Do you see that the war could end before the summer, given the kind of determination that President Trump seems to have to push ahead with some kind of an early resolution?
Very keen on a deal. I mean, I think Putin, is still only got about a fifth of Ukraine. It's going to have a hard time presenting this to the Russian people, having lost or had wounded 800,000 Russian soldiers. He's going to have a hard time presenting this as victory. So when we hear about escalating drone attacks and missile attacks on Ukraine, there is still a reluctance by Russia to conclude, even if it's a frozen conflict, to conclude a ceasefire or stop fighting at this point. So Trump's going to have to bring out a little bit more of those famed negotiating art of the deal skills if he's going to get a settlement and peace within the next 3-4 months.
Okay. Ed Luce and Yevgenia there in Ukraine. I appreciate both of you joining me here on the show tonight. It's a fast developing situation. As I said, there will be always a Trump tracker in 2025. Okay, let's turn to tonight's India Today Fact Check, where we take up fake news and misleading content on the internet and try and bring you the true picture. Today's fact check is on a video doing the rounds, claiming to show Ranveer Allahabadiya and Samay Raina being arrested. Here is what our fact check team with AI Sana found out.
This fact check on viral fake news is done by India Today's team AFA. A video making the rounds on social media shows the police arresting people, seemingly from a residential area. A huge crowd can be seen present at the spot as police nab 2 men, while some can be heard arguing in the background. Those sharing the clip claimed that the video showed police arresting Samay Raina and Ranveer Allahabadiya from their homes, following the controversial joke on the India's Got Latent show. India Today Fact Check found this video has no links to the ongoing controversy. It is from 2023 and shows the police detaining 2 men over a parking dispute in Uttar Pradesh's Greater Noida. This fact check on viral fake news is done by India Today's team AFA. This is AI Sana signing off.
From AI Sana, let's turn to our good news today story as we end the show. We meet Avantika Panchturi today, who returned from New Zealand to her village in Moga in Punjab. She wanted to skill youngsters in the village so that they can find jobs here instead of migrating to foreign shores. And she's getting some success. We leave you with that story tonight. Take a look.
Youngsters from Punjab going abroad looking for opportunities is quite common. But 23-year-old Avantika Panchturi chose to return from New Zealand, where she was born and brought up. She wanted to help young women in her native village become self-reliant. Avantika runs a skill training center in Fatehgarh, Panjtur.
या तो मैं न्यूजीलैंड में एक लाइफ जी सकती हूँ एज ए साइंटिस्ट, या मैं इंडिया में पापा की तरह आके बच्चों के लिए, कम्युनिटी के लिए कुछ कर सकती हूँ. तो मैंने एजुकेशन भी पढ़ी थी और मुझे ऐसा लगा कि नहीं, मुझे यही करना है. मुझे पापा की तरह यहाँ पे आके बच्चों को हेल्प करना है.
Avantika took inspiration from her father, Jatinder Panchturi, a science teacher who came back from New Zealand to run the school established by his elders. The skill training center also uses the school facilities.
तो करीब 500 बच्चों को हमने, लोगों को हमने पिछले साल फ्री एक्सेल, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ये स्किल्स सिखाई जो उनको कंप्यूटर स्किल्स है, जॉब के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है।
हाँ जी, सानू अवंतिका मैडम ने बहुत प्रेरित किया कि देखो घर बैठे भी ਆਪਾਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਕਮਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਹੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਖੁਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਜਜ਼ਬਾ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਡੀ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੀ ਲੜਕੀ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਪ੍ਰੇਰਿਤ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ।
Avantika feels NRIs can play a bigger role in making Punjab more prosperous. Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, to our image of the day, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar took heads of mission of 61 countries on elephant and jeep safari rides at the Kaziranga National Park. For the group's elephant safari inside the park's central range, Jaishankar rode a tusker, Pradyuman. It's our image of the day. This is while the Advantage Assam conclave is going on in Guwahati, trying to attract investors and change the image in many ways of the Northeast. I hope that's only the first of various initiatives that will be taken to bring the Northeast and Assam in particular closer to Delhi. Not enough just to have an elephant ride. We need a little bit more. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Don't ride a jumbo just yet. Bye for now.